Voters in a rural Alberta riding head to the polls today in a closely watched by-election.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre looking to secure a seat in the House of Commons after losing the one he held for some 20 years. There's CTV's Colton Praill live in Camrose, Alberta, with more. The outcome seems to be kind of a foregone conclusion here, Colton, but it's really a look at the overall numbers that's going to be the most interesting part about this, isn't it?
Absolutely, Nick. I mean, this is a riding that is probably the second safest Conservative seat in the country. We're talking about, in the last 2 decades, Conservative wins all above 80% of the vote, with the exception of one in 2021, where Damien Couric had 71% of the vote. Winning here is not the challenge for Mr. Poilievre. There are two things that will matter. One, how much? As long as it's within a reasonable margin of error from that 83% that Damien Couric had in April, there's not going to be a ton of fuss about this. If he's above 80, that's a good sign. If it's below that, if it's far below that, then certainly there's lots to talk about. But really, a by-election near harvest time, there are excuses. There's 214 candidates here. There's a lot of reasons why it might not be exactly as high as Damien Couric had in April. But what's important for him is that as long as it's similar, he can move on. And moving on is really the focus for the Conservative Party leader for twofolds. One, it's about getting back into the House of Commons, being back in the front of cameras and on headlines and making news in the way he was doing it leading up to the last election cycle. But two, it's about making sure he's doing that because he has a leadership review coming up in January in Calgary. Conservative members are going to vote whether or not they want him to stay on as leader. And we've seen in the past, there's very little tolerance in the Conservative Party for people who lose elections, especially elections they think they ought to have won. Now, there's certainly extenuating circumstances in Mr. Poilievre's case, and he's done a lot to grow this party, and we've seen public support for this new coalition that he's built. But maintaining that support over the next few months, assuming he goes back to the House of Commons, that's the real priority here. So as long as the win looks similar to what we've seen in the past, it's really going to be okay. Move on. Time for step two and really bigger hurdles for him to cross.
Okay, we'll be watching closely to see if he is within that margin of error of 80%. CTV's Colton Praill joining us live. Thank you.